What's going on, guys? And I kind of have a story that you may have heard, you probably definitely have, but there's a lot of things going on, whether it is true or this isn't. This is the theory of Jaren Ward, Dredgen Yor, and Shin Malphur. This is the last word versus the Thorn debate, and this is how it pretty much originally began. Of course, two theories are whether Jaren Ward is Dredgen Yor or he's not. Those are the two main ones. But here are some information about whether it is true, whether it is not. Jaren Ward is introduced in a way through Shin Malphur's eyes as a kid. And from Shin Malphur's eyes when he met Jaren Ward, it is, until two men enter his world, one light, the other the darkest shadow I would ever know. This says that there are two people coming in his life, one evil, one light, but they only explain one, and that one person is Jaren Ward. One day, Jaren Ward approached Shin Malphur and lended him his gun, the last word, for him to look at, see it was cool and stuff. And from his point of view, I barely registered when he began to kneel, holding out the iron as if an offering. My eyes locked onto the piece, mesmerized. I recall turning back to my father and seeing the looks on his faces of everyone I knew. There was worry there, my father slowly shaking his head as if pleading with me to ignore the gift. I turned back to the man I would come to know as Jaren Ward, and I took the weapon in my hand, carefully, gently, not to use, but to observe, to imagine, to feel its weight and know its truth. That was the first time I held the last word, but unfortunately not the last. It's kind of important to say that Shin Malphur is actually going to obtain this weapon and know that it is his. That's what that entire dialogue is actually saying. A couple days later, Jaren Ward is still in that shady little town far off, and Jaren comes across Loken, the town's mayor, and they have a little quarrel. This is the dialogue. Well, kind of. Loken laughed dismissively. He had 9 guns on his side. Those gonna be your last words then, boy? The movement was a flash, quick as chain lightning. Jaren spoke as he moved. Yours, not mine. Smoke trailed from Jaren's revolver. Loken hit the ground, a dark hole in his forehead, eyes staring into eternity. Jaren stared down the 9 guns trained on him. One by one they lowered their aim, and the rest of my life began, where, in a few short years, so many others would be ended. First of all, yours, not mine is the famous words that are, it's what it says in the last word, if you look at that, but it's actually not those yours, not mine words that are actually on the last word. Those words will be soon later. Shin Malphur, he says it, as you see. He's a renegade, he's a hunter, that's all going to be wrapped up soon. But another key thing that was in that dialogue was that so many others will be ended. That is not a good thing. And the town that we're talking about is actually Palamon. That is the city that they are in. I forgot to mention that. And that is pretty much all there is to know about Jaren Ward by himself. So now we come across Dredgen Yor. Who he was? Well, he was very good in the Crucible, very notorious. Thorn at his side. It's probably about, say, 500,000 people that are Dredgen Yor wannabes using Thorn in the Crucible. You probably get like an amen for that from all the people. There's a Grimoire card explaining Thorn, and it's actually covering what a nobleman, and he's beaten down by time, secret inner despair, finally give in and embrace the darkness. It reads, a sadness crept from the depth of his being. He had been a hero for so long, but pride had led him down sorrow's road. Slowly the shadow's whisper became a voice, a dark call, offering glories enough to make even the brightest light wander. He knew he was fading, yet he still yearned. And so the noble man hid himself beneath the darkness no flesh should touch, and gave his mortal self to claim a new birthright. Whether this was choice or destiny, wow, is a truth known only by fate. In that cool evening air, a dusk was devoured by night. That old man ceased to exist. In his place another stood, same meat, same bone, but so very different. And this is where people get confused. You could say that this is Jaren Ward. He was a nobleman, yes, and he seemed to have swapped over to the dark side, becoming Dredgen Yor. I'm going to draw a little comparison between the two. It's a bit of a stretch, but bear with me. Dredgen Yor, Jaren Ward. Sound somewhat similar? No? Okay. And that Grimoire card that I was talking about, Dredgen Yor, saying that is Jaren Ward, that is not fact. That is only theorizing what it may be. If you didn't know, I actually think that Jaren Ward is Dredgen Yor. One thing's for certain is that it makes for a much better story, and I am obsessed with good storytelling, and that's just the way that I think Bungie would do things, even though some people can argue whether it's this or that. Now we're looping back around to the famous quote, yours not mine. That quote, that is said when you get the gun the last word. It is said by the renegade hunter Shin Malphur to Dredgen Yor during the showdown at Dwindler's Ridge. If you're wondering why Shin Malphur and Dredgen Yor are actually battling it out, trying to see who's better, it's not because they want to see who's tougher. No, it is because Dredgen Yor, quote unquote, killed Jaren Ward. Now, killed can be taken literally or not so literally. Whether he killed himself, as in Jaren Ward, and became the new person as known as Dredgen Yor, or Dredgen Yor straight up just shot Jaren Ward and that's it, done and over with. So Shin Malphur either does know this or doesn't know this. That's the problem with Destiny, is that there's not a lot of things to go on. It's just Grimoire cards. Way to go, Bungie. But Shin Malphur gets really pissed off and tries to avenge him, and he goes out and faces Dredgen Yor. Now, who the winner is, we don't know. Like I said before, good storytelling would be Shin Malphur killing his master or his father-like figure, Jaren Ward, because he had turned evil and he needs to be put down. Almost like how main protagonists turn evil, like for example Light Yagami in Death Note, where he seemed okay, but he needed to kind of get put down because he got a little psycho. Now let's talk about whether you think Jaren Ward is Dredgen Yor or Dredgen Yor killed Jaren Ward. These are some extremely interesting points actually, relating to this, and they may sway your vote as to which one is which. We do know that Jaren Ward actually does have some ruthless efficiency, and that can be seen in response to Loken, where he just put a bullet straight through the guy's head. Yep, that's not at all problematic. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot to their dialogue as to what happened. I don't know why he would put a bullet through the guy's head, and they could have just talked things out. That's usually what the hero does, but not in that case. That was a very blunt decision of him. Jaren Ward and Yor respond to confrontation in the same way. They maintain very calm, collected manner. They do not hesitate for even a second, put a bullet between the eyes when that fails. Ward and Yor are both asked to let someone look at their gun. Ward complies, and Yor is ruthless, but not as generous, and he still does it anyways. The two men described in the last word one as light and one as the darkest shadow he had ever seen, are one body but two men, same meat, same bone, so very different. And as quoting back to the Grimoire I read about the same flesh, same everything, same bone, talking about Dredgen Yor or Jaren Ward decaying into Dredgen Yor. One of the most important pieces and evidence that tie them together are Ward's words to Mayor Loken, and that adults Shin's words to Dredgen Yor, the last words, yours, not mine. That can be put together as Shin Malphur showing Dredgen Yor that he really looked up to Jaren Ward, and that it's almost very ironic that Shin Malphur says Jaren Ward's words to Dredgen Yor or Jaren Ward, and it just fits too perfectly. Maybe because Shin Malphur knew that Jaren Ward turned into Dredgen Yor, and he wanted to say that before he put a bullet between his head. We don't know. Anyway guys, that seems to be it, and that is all there is to know. More Grimoire should be coming out with the new House of Wolves DLC, which is probably already out right now, depending on the time you're seeing this. And we will learn more about the everlasting battle between Jaren Ward and Dredgen Yor, which is which, if not different. Which side do you vote for? Are you for the Dredgen Yor is not Jaren Ward? Or are you, like me, Jaren Ward is Dredgen Yor? Some things just seem too perfect, whether you can argue the facts that he is not. I will just throw the card down and say, hey, good storytelling is there, and that's probably what a good story would be. That's something Bungie would do. It's something I would do if I was telling a story. It's pretty good. It's not something we haven't seen before, but that's because if it's not broken, don't fix it.